Welcome to the American Institute of Architects Kansas City Chapter's Legends and Leaders program. This series highlights AIA architects and others that have helped shape our community, lead the AIA, and mentor new generation of designers. Kirk Gastinger is co-founder of the firm Gastinger Walker. He is a leader in architectural design and is instrumental force in the sustainable design movement. He was co-founding member of the National AIA Committee on the Environment and was named an AIA Fellow in 1993. Kirk has served at all levels of leadership in the AIA Kansas City chapter, as well as board chair at Horizon Academy, Charlotte Street Foundation, and 2020 Leadership. He has served on the Facilities Committee of the Starlight Theater Association and Advocacy Committee for the American Institute of Architects. Kirk is an executive director of CUBE, the Center for the Understanding of the Built Environment. Kirk is a graduate of Kansas State University. Let's meet Kirk.
Well, I don't know what really got me interested, but over the years of learning and drafting in high school, and the really most influential thing was getting a summer job at Marshall and Brown Architects, and being able to see architects in action. I just had a little office job, but really interestingly, the very first summer, there was a big layoff, and I wasn't the only one. It was lots of other people, and it was like, freak out. But the guys said, well, go upstairs 2 stories to Kivett Myers. Kivett Myers is hiring, and maybe they'll hire you. So I went up there, and I got hired for the summer job and through school year and the next summer. So seeing architects in action and not having any other experience or exposure to design field or people with college degrees or anything like that, it really inspired me to say, oh, I think I could do that. So that's what got me started in architecture. You asked about more other mentors and influences, but when I was at Kivett Myers and afterwards, 3 people stand out in my mind, but many more of them I got to know being a student, and then also knowing them professionally afterwards. And that's Tom Nelson and Bob Berkebile, Kite Singleton. Clarence Kivett was also very influential. He was such a wonderful man, and he thought that everyone could succeed. And I think he really helped promote that whole feeling within the firm. And so many firms were spawned out of his firm that he had a real touch with people, and he cared about design just as much as anyone, but he also cared about people.
So, Kirk, what advice would you give to young architects regarding their careers?
Well, read, travel, keep your eyes open. Don't give up, ever. Just don't give up.
This work takes a certain stamina, doesn't it?
Well, I think there's so many things that you can be a part of. That if you think you're not good at math, so what? If you think you're not good at talking with people, so what? What if you can't hear? You can do something, and you can have an influence, and you can have a part to play, because the design world is big. I mean, it's not just the person who sits down and makes a sketch. It's way, way, way bigger than that. And so I think there's just so many things that design can really help change our communities.
Tell us about your early career, your most influential mentors, and most interesting projects that made you who you are today.
A story that's, every helping hand helps another. And so there's been so many people. But I would say, I transferred out to K-State from junior college and left Kivett Myers. And one of the very first professors that I really connected with and stayed with all of my college career and even after was Amos Chang. And Amos Chang had written a book on the Tao of architecture. And I thought that it was just the most fascinating thing. And I would go into his office at lunch, just to have lunch with him just every day I could. And it was just a real wonderful experience. And he would be having his tofu, and a cup of tea. And I'd be wondering, like, what the heck is this? But the whole design world changed for me in thinking about architecture with him. Lots of other people, of course, colleagues and students and professors, but he was one of the influential ones. Another one was Henry Wright, who was a fellow at K-State, and he preached to his other professors and to the students everything about energy design. Energy design and conservation was like, you guys should look forward to this, So one day, Steve Reese and myself and some other students came up with the idea that we were going to have Earth Day at K-State. And so the very first Earth Day was 1970, and that was something that we got engaged in and cared a lot about.
Awesome.
Again, Steve Reese and I, later on in our careers, sponsored a solar design conference to influence engineers, architects, and owners about the idea that solar energy could help save energy and improve the environment. This was 1975. So it was really, really, really early in the process, but we got a grant from an organization here in town and the Midwest Research Institute, and put this large conference on, and 500 people attended. Those are the kinds of things that I think energy influence for me has been stronger, and that is later on Bob Berkebile and I cooking up the idea that we would create the Committee on the Environment to help influence architects and owners and designers to be more efficient with their designs. So we spent a lot of time developing those environmental resource guide and lots of other good tools for architects to think and to be conscious that they could make an influence on their problem.
EIA environmental action, including the Environmental Resource Guide and Code Committee on the Environment. What inspired that interest, and what have you been able to accomplish?
Well, it's just a series of lucky events that come together. And the executive committee and Bob Berkebile and I were at Washington in 1989, and we cooked up this idea that the AIA needed to be a leader in environmental design and energy design. So we put forth a proposal for the AIA to create a committee on the environment. And that was debated in the summer at St. Louis, the National Convention, and it was finally approved. Even though we had some resistance about people thinking that this was just motherhood and apple pie. Why do we need to worry about this? But we prevailed and created the Committee on the Environment, which then we were lucky enough to move forward with receiving over $1 million in grants from the Environmental Protection Agency to write the Environmental Resource Guide that flowed out of the Committee on the Environment. Also including a very important event, which was a couple of years later during the formation of the committee, where we did a program on greening the White House. And that was to give President Clinton ideas and tools to be able to turn the entire White House complex into a more environmentally sensitive and energy efficient complex.
You've also been active with and now serve as the Executive Director of Center for Understanding the Built Environment, known as CUBE. How would you describe this initiative and its impact?
Well, Ginny and Dean Graves are both, Ginny's an honorary and Dean's a fellow in AIA, and Dean was a former president of our chapter. They came up with this idea in the someday about creating built environment education. And Ginny, as an educator, really developed an entire program around teaching teachers to teach children about the value of the built environment. Fabulous concept, and it was developed with so many tools and pieces and parts, like walk around the block, learn about architecture, box city, build a city, take pictures, do lots of different things. And Ginny developed then a really cadre of people all over the country and around the world who understood and fell into the idea of making this a extracurricular activity for schools. So, of course we know it's fundamental because it's everything. Architecture has math, science, history, art, it's everything. And so the CUBE program just continued to flourish over the years. Well, as Dean and Ginny got to retirement age, and I was always engaged in CUBE in some way, all the way along the process, whether it was teaching or helping fund or whatever, they passed on, I'll say, CUBE to me, and I took it into the digital world and started putting out the idea that anyone who asks and learns about CUBE could receive, for no charge, the curricula. So over the last 6 or 7 years, I've been sharing the curriculum with people from any walk of life, all over the world. And so we've shared the Box City and the Walk Around the Block and other programs. It's fabulous the number of people I had one yesterday from Sri Lanka. Somebody wanted the Box City curriculum. It teaches the teacher how to teach the children in any kind of setting how to understand and be more influential. That's the real goal. How to learn more about what your environment is and take action. It's not to create designers so much as it is to create people who have realized that they have a role and a part to play in the built environment.
So, Kirk, you will be leaving Kansas City soon. What do you think you might miss the most?
Well, all of my friends. It's the hardest part because Joan and I, we've been married 41 years and we love that. We're getting a chance to have a new chapter in our life, but physically, I'll miss being able to see the Kansas City environment, but and I'll miss all of the building. You see, on my bicycle rides, I see buildings on every ride that I've had something to do with. But I'm not bragging. I'm just saying, those are going to be gone. But I don't think that's as influential or as important to me as being able to know that I still have friends in other places. And that's a big cement in both of our lives.
Thank you, Kirk, for sharing your valuable insights and experiences. You have been a great inspiration for many of us, and with this interview, your legacy lives on.